All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our live trading for Tuesday, the 25th. Yesterday was not the most exciting day. We did get a couple of quality setups in the RTY, but I think it demonstrates both one of the frustrations and strengths of the stack trade system. Right? Again, we've said up front, no system is perfect. No system is only going to provide you great setups. You have to sort of learn and marinate a system for a few months before you really get a feel for it. Um, but the strength of the system was we just didn't get a lot of bullshit alerts yesterday. We got a couple that we talked about in here that just didn't really excite us. The one RTY we took yesterday together turned out great. There was a trade later on in the day, which I covered in our video, guys. That looked great. Ended up producing a small win. We ran out of time. We were, I don't carry any trades much past about 2:30 Central Time, and definitely not past the 3 o'clock New York stock close. So, again, one of the frustrations though is that sometimes we can just kind of sit here for 2 or 3 hours and not see a lot. And that happens as well. The good news is we continue kind of a nice little streak here. So let's just see what we have in store for us today. What we don't like about today so far, we're just a little too close to the 5R 5D mid, the daily mid here. We generally don't want to be here, guys. We want to get some divergence away from here because again, this is a very strong line. Right. This is the midpoint of the last 5 days action. So especially as we get deeper into a week, it's more and more of that week's price action that we're taking into account. Right. So any day we don't want to see this, but especially later in the week, we really don't want to be just pinned to this daily mid. Now, that doesn't mean we don't possibly get setups. In fact, what we want to see here is what's happening. We want to see a green to red move in the indexes. Obviously, the NQ showing a little relative strength, but that's basically what we want to see. Is we want to see a push down. We want to see our hourly zone step down, and then potentially give us a some S3 short setups into the afternoon. So if this is one of those days where we decline a little bit and then just go strongly from there to the downside. I mean, I know we're up a couple hundred points, guys, but if we look at the big picture, we're still, and again, guys, this is what do we talk about with downtrends and the prior swing lows and swing highs. When you put these on your chart, guys, it becomes really easy to see, right? We continually are making lower highs and lower lows, right? We're almost in a little bit of a channel here, although the price action the last few hours pulls us a little bit out of that. But our downtrend is not broken because we have not, at least thus far, made a higher high. So we would need to break out basically above 29,500 for us to start talking about the hourly downtrend is broken. So yeah, so that's basically it, guys. Now, if I really want to see us move below this current swing high. It'll become our prior swing high in a couple of candles, I would guess, once we begin to repaint some lines here. But right now, I would love to see this. I would love to see this continue to decline. And now I don't know if you noticed, I adjusted the schedule, guys. So I'm going to come on a little before. What did I set that up as? I think a little before 1 Eastern tomorrow. Or 1 Central. Yeah, so guys, I'm coming on at 12:45 Central, so that's 1:45 Eastern tomorrow. We'll watch that hourly so the 1 Central hourly zones and candle to roll over, and then we'll watch another one as well. I'll do maybe one of these sessions every couple of weeks. Just because I know some people can't make that time, but that's when we're seeing a lot of setup, so I don't want to leave that time uncovered. We also will be again, I don't want to deviate from the schedule too much because I like locking in a good schedule with that, and I've got a couple of outside things I'm going to be working on pretty soon. Not going to affect us. This won't affect the room here. So I need to be a little more structured with my time going forward. Anyway, hope everybody had a good evening yesterday. Hope you were able to kind of see and work through the set. Again, guys, honestly, I have traders that I know, not as many futures traders, because again, if you take a full day off, it's 20% of your potential days. But I have a lot of time, option trader buddies or even just lights that just don't trade on Mondays anymore just because there's so much uncertainty. And we are getting a little bit of a choppy open here, guys. We're basically right back where we were in the NQ at the open, right? So here was our 8:30 opening candle. So we're basically almost flat in the New York session. Hey, Peter, good morning, man. It was good to see everybody. Little data coming in here, guys. New home sales coming in slightly lower than expected. Consumer confidence coming in slightly lower than expected. Doesn't look like anything that's really moving the markets. What else do we have? I haven't actually looked at too much economic data this week. So yeah, so we've got all of our PCR price index stuff. Didn't see a huge oh, it's tomorrow. Okay, guys, yeah. So PCE, core PCE, this is some big data tomorrow, guys, inflation-based data. So we're going to keep an eye for that. And then Friday, we're going to have, apparently, Warsh is giving a speech at the exact same time as they release the non-farm payrolls. Make of that what you will. Actually, guys, I will say this: as stack trade traders, we like this pre-market data, right? That 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central data, an hour before the New York Open, an hour and a half before we're actively hunting for stack setups. We love that because it's going to create, most times it's going to create some movement, some volatility, but there's plenty of time for the markets to kind of figure out what they want to think about that and where they want to go. Again, guys, I know it's sexy to try to trade CPI or in past years Fed meetings or even earnings if you're so bold. And okay, you got a little bit of that itch. Like I said, just have your own account to scratch that one. All right, CL looking like a short setup here. S4 short, so we've got a break and extend short, so we're below our daily. All right, again, I'm not trading CL in my personal account. It's just too much headline risk right now. But if I was taking this, and we will take this in stack trade control, it would be a break of this candle here. Which I guess it just filled me on. Didn't really mean to do that, but that's okay. Again, this would just go in our, and we got room all the way up to the daily mid here. So basically playing for a move to the daily mid or the hourly mid or the hourly low, excuse me. Oh, it's just going to zip right up there and take me out, huh? I erred in the setting of this, guys. I meant to really stick it a few ticks below the candle here, but hey, not the worst idea in the world to watch something like this get managed. But again, this is one reason, guys. I've not touched a CL trade in my either a funded account or a personal account since the Whispers of Venezuela started or late last year. There's too much headline risk here, guys. The CL is basically not every single day, but it's largely traded like the NQ on crack, especially since the Iran situation got going. Anyway, that's likely going to stop out, which is fine. Again, not a trade I have actual money on, so I'm not too worried about it. NQ really kind of declining here, which is what we want to see, guys. Let's see. We don't want to see it go like down to 29,000, but if this wants to take us another 80 or 90 points lower heading into the next hour, we are 100% okay with that. I will say this though, guys. The system's overall been performing well, but one of the positives I think of of the last month or so is again we're not getting one of the tougher days to navigate in the stack trade system is days where you're getting a lot of high quality setups, right? Because it seems nice, right? Like one great setup after another, but at some point, like you have to decide when is enough is enough. And guys, I've had days, especially early on, where in my personal brokerage account, I'm up 3K, going into lunch, and then I take one or two more setups, and all of a sudden I'm only up 1,100, which is still a nice day, but it's not 3K. So that's one reason that generally, guys, I mean, you guys should have if you don't, let me know. I'll make sure to get them to you. And they're pinned or they're at least in the chat as well. The trade limit sheet, right? And to start with, those are more guidelines than rules, but they're very strong guidelines, especially when you start. But guys, I generally have a rule. If my first two trades of the day go full PT, which is usually 1,000 or plus, and again, this is a rule that was a guideline that was a little more put into place when I was trading a little bigger sizes before the recent volatility. But generally, if I especially I've had days where first two trades hit, I'm generally going to call it a day, guys. Or maybe you hit a trade, you lose a trade, then you hit a couple more. You want to be careful going back and forth, because then it's noon and you're 9 trades in and you're break even on the day. Those are the days that frustrate me the most, guys. But that's generally why the 6 trade limit is put in place. Keeps you from yo-yoing around. And in general, if my first 2 trades are full losers, I'm okay taking one more, but generally I'm going to be very, very careful with that. If I take, generally speaking, if I take 2 losses to start the day, I'm probably going to take at least 30 minutes off or 60 minutes off. I'm not going to pay attention to alerts. I'm just going to get away from my charts. And then if I take another trade that day and that ends up being a loser, and it's going to be smaller size, that's it. 0 for 3. And I think it's only happened about 5 or 6 times this year, guys. I am definitely done at that point. I will not take another trade the rest of the day in any account period. All right, let's go one by one through everything, guys, and take a look. So ES, again, good news. We're diverging a little bit from the daily the daily mid. Now, again, generally, guys, we want to take, and I think I have these signals actually set up to require the 5-hour mid trend filter. Now, I'm actually going to take that off today. As you see, it's given some of these long setups from before the market. I just, again, if we're fairly close to the daily mid, I feel a little better about taking like long trades if we're just below this, or short trades if we're just above it. And again, I would be more apt to take long trades right by the daily, the daily low as well. If we get a stack, it can't just be the daily low. We got to get a stack. In no man's land here, though, sort of between about a quarter of the way between the daily mid and the daily low. So here, like, let me get these other ones off the screen for you guys. So in general, now this is, again, guideline, not a rule, guys, right? Let's see. Can I get a, well, you know what? It'll just be easier to do it this way. So I'm going to be more apt to take, or at least not as restrictive about taking long trades. We'll throw that in there. That'll work. Sort of in about these areas, right? Because the daily should provide us the possibility of a bounce if we get a stack. And in here, especially on lower volume, guys, most moves are going to favor a move back to the daily mid. And you can see we're really pinned to that right now, and have been basically since about 2 in the morning, about 3 in the morning. So I'm okay. And we're still going to follow our rules. We're going to take a little lighter position. I'd probably only be, 4 to 5 micros here, as opposed to maybe 7 to 8 in a normal setup, or maybe sometimes 10 micros. And I always take 10 micros instead of 1 mini because I can scale out of the trade. But in these areas here, I would be a little more okay with the long. Not going to see me take many longs down here, just because especially if we break below about a quarter of the way between the daily mid and the daily low, it increases the probabilities of an acceleration of price down towards the low, even if we don't get all the way down there. All right, as far as the NQ is concerned, very similar, guys, here. Let me get my, let's get this back up. So very similar here, guys. See y'all hanging in there? Oh, look at this son of a gun. Basically came within a few ticks of stopping us out, and then it's going to put us green. What about the GC? So GC is actually above its daily mid. So again, this would be an area that I would favor longs. Now, I will also tell you this, guys, and let's see what happens if we can break a little lower. But when the daily midline, when any midline, basically when it shifts, goes to the bottom or the top, that's usually a pretty strong sign of directional movement, right? So the daily or the hourly mid moved from here to basically being almost exactly the same as our previous hourly low. That's a pretty strong bearish sign, guys, which means if we were to basically roll below 75 here, potentially setting up another S3 short, I would be interested in that. Okay, NQ breaking a new session lows here. Let's go keep an eye on that. Again, this is kind of what we want to see, guys. Being that we're kind of well, we are below the hourly mid now. The hourly mid shifted up, so if this shifts down, that's only one shift down. It's not going to give us any valid S3s. Doesn't mean we can't take those, even if there's not a label on the chart. You just have to know that that's not a textbook setup, and you're not going to see a signal there because we need to see the hourly mid step down at least twice for a valid S3 short at that point. Oh, I think I got too much sleep last night, guys. You ever do that? Like I'm slept a lot this weekend, which is good. Like been a few weeks, busy few weeks here. So both my wife and I were kind of overly tired. We ended up basically spending 4 days in Memphis, just eating and sleeping, which is wonderful. Wonderful few days. Uh I will say this, guys, if you never we got married last year and we decided because we were moving, we had just bought a house, we had we were both in the process of switching jobs and going through just a whole lot. We decided to wait a year on our honeymoon. So we decided that she loves the Smoky Mountains, so we're going up into the Smokies for a week and just kind of watch the leaves change in October. But we wanted to at least do something for our anniversary, which was this past weekend. So we went to Memphis, which is a 4-hour drive from St. Louis. Had a great time. We stayed in this hotel called the Peabody Hotel, which is just this gorgeous 100-year-old hotel in downtown Memphis. And listen, Memphis, like a lot of cities, there's some areas you probably don't want to go to, but most of the area we were around was fine. Um, and but they have this tradition, and this is really interesting, guys. I hadn't heard about this. If you're around there, you've probably seen this or heard about it. I had never heard about it. So they have the March of the Ducks twice a day at this Peabody Hotel, right? So I saw this on YouTube and decided this was the reason we decided to take this trip because I thought my wife needed to do this. So anyway, the story is that the owner of this hotel, when they built, the hotel goes back to the 1860s. In the 1920s, they built the current hotel, and it was 25 because they just had their 100th anniversary last year. It's got this big, gorgeous, ornate lobby, right, with marble everywhere, and it's this big Italian marble fountain with fresh flowers on it, and in the middle of the lobby, right? And back in the day, that's all there was there. Now there's like a nice lobby bar and carpeting and all that around there. So in the 30s, the owner of the hotel and a couple of his buddies, Memphis is right on the border between Tennessee, Mississippi, and Arkansas, went across the river to Arkansas to go duck hunting. And at the time, it was legal to use live decoy ducks. So ducks, whose flight feathers are trimmed and, will attract the other ducks. You can't do that anymore, or at least I guess not. I don't hunt, so I don't, I don't know. But So these guys went out and they did that and they got drunk off their asses on Jack Daniels, as one does when they're hunting, I guess, in the 1930s in Arkansas. So they came back across the river and they thought it would be funny when they got back to the hotel to put the ducks in the big, nice marble fountain. So they did that. And again, these are flightless ducks because they're, they had their flight feathers trimmed. Uh, and so they did that and they stumble up to their rooms and go to bed. Well, the next day they wake up, I think like late afternoon, right? Because, you're up all night drinking and shooting things. You need to sleep in. And it's just like the buzz of the town, these ducks in the fountain. People are coming from all over the place to see these. And so they kind of did it a little bit off and on for a while. And then they had in the late 30s, they had a bellman who used to work for Barnum and Bailey. And he said, I will train these ducks. I'll give me some ducks. I will train them and we will march them from a rooftop duck palace, which is up there, into the elevator. We will take them down to the lobby and we will march them into the fountain. And then at the end of the day, so they do that every day at 11 o'clock. And then at 5 o'clock, they do the reverse march. They put them on the elevator, take them upstairs. And I thought these are like long-term ducks, like they're there for years. Turns out they're not. Actually, the guy was telling me. So they get these ducks that are a year old from a breeder. They've had their flight feathers trimmed. And they only get them for 90 days. So they get them for 90 days. They'll march them back and forth for 90 days. Then they go back to the breeder. The breeder lets their flight feathers grow back and then releases them. And they go wherever the hell the ducks go in southwestern Tennessee, right? So it was really entertaining. So yeah, so my wife and I were honorary duck masters, which is something a little package that you can purchase. I don't have it down here. But you get a little ducky cane. I mean, it's a nice one, like a wooden cane with a brass duck head on it, a cute little T-shirt. You get proclamations, all that stuff. It was really fun. But anyway, so at 11 o'clock, we followed the duck master up to the duck palace. We helped herd the ducks into the elevator, got in the elevator, rode them down, and marched them right into the fountain. Now this was a Friday morning, so it was before Friday check-in and all that. But just for the Friday morning duck march, are probably 250 people in the lobby. There was probably 600 or 700 for the evening one, and on the weekends, obviously, it's a very, very popular thing. People come from all over to see this thing. But it was really fun to participate in that. And the guy who does it, the duck master, and they have a few because nobody works 365 days a year, but he's kind of their main guy. And this guy is an entertainer and a showman. He's actually a part-time actor. He's had bit roles in a few different films, so he's got a SAG card and all that. But it was really entertaining to see, and he makes a big theatrical production out of it. If you go to YouTube and just search Peabody Hotel Ducks, there's a bunch of short documentaries, and everybody posts their videos of watching it. It's a cute, fun, harmless little tradition that has been going on for almost 100 years now, in this just old hotel. But if you ever get a chance to go, and they just renovated all the rooms, so and they're redoing parts of the facade, but the lobby is basically the original. It's just a gorgeous. I love like gorgeous old hotels. We don't have as many of them in the Midwest as like especially the East Coast does, but it was a lot of fun. So look at oil, man. Hanging in there. I still think it's likely this trade stops us out. We got just a few ticks away here. What was the high here? The high was 89. So basically we were 2 single ticks away from stopping out. Probably still a stop out trade, but it is interesting nonetheless. That may be when we hang in for a little while. Yeah, guys. We'll look at some things and we'll talk through some things, but I basically think we're kind of waiting for the 10 o'clock hour, as has been the case. I mean, I know we got that nice trade after the 9 o'clock hour in the RTY yesterday. I think it was an S3 short, but this again, the 10. I would tell you, if you asked me 6 months ago, that the 9 to noon window is the best window of the day. Now it's about 10 to 1:30 ish Central Time, a little closer to 2. I've taken more trades. I generally won't open a new trade in power hour, but I mean, if it's 157 and a nice setup, or even 205, definitely don't take trades after 2:30, 30 minutes before the New York stock close. But yeah, I mean, it's especially yesterday, guys. We'd only really had one really nice setup, and so there was another quality setup in the RTY. I think it ended up being about a $200 winner. It petered out as we went into the close. So we will, guys. We'll go up till about 10 o'clock today. Um, Honestly, if price action shoots right back up towards the mids, we'll probably call it a little early. But as long as we're hanging down here near 15-minute and hourly lows, we'll we'll see it through to the top of the hour. We'll just see where things shift. Then we'll take a brief break. I will come back for chart talk at 10:30. That will be brief because at about 10:50, I gotta head out real quick. And then I got some meetings this afternoon. But I think today's kind of a big day, guys. I really do. If we look at the hourly, again, we get this rejection off. I know we formed a new swing high, which is higher than our previous swing high. But guys, if this is, take these off for a second, and we're still just making a series of lower highs and lower lows, right? In fact, I didn't generally am not like a channel trader. I don't think we see them that much in big time futures, but this is a nice little channel. We've peaked below, peaked above. And also channels in any sort of like diagonal lines that aren't horizontal, that's a little bit of a guessing game, a little bit of a drawing. You're drawing as opposed to it's just a horizontal or a vertical line. But again, this makes a lot more sense when you follow the principles we talk about in here. Support and resistance are zones; they're not a straight line. Sure, it's great when they can be this nice, right? But in general, because again, if you're trying to accommodate this, this high, now all of a sudden you're getting an expanding channel, and that's not nearly as clean, right? Well, hope everyone's feeling good today. We're kind of in the dog days. Like August and into September have turned more into the dog days of trading. I think over the years, like I said last year, this August has not been the best trading month. I mean, we've done pretty well. Hasn't been the best trading month in terms of like consistent movement and consistent volatility. Last year was horrible. Last year, like I told you, I think it was early. I'll go back and look, but it was early August into sort of mid to late September that we were between two Fed meetings. The Venezuela stuff hadn't started yet. Obviously, Iran hadn't started yet. Trump had been going on about tariffs for most of the summer, but it wasn't really like focused on it at that point. earnings were sort of mostly coming in as expected. Like the market just didn't do much, or it would move big overnight and then not do shit during the New York hours. It was very frustrating. It was a good 60 to 70% of trading days in about a 6 week period that were just not giving a whole lot of opportunities. And then of course we got, the rest of the year did really, and I know a lot of people are going to still say, the old sell in May and go away crowd, basically doesn't trade from, middle of May to Labor Day. But I really think this is like June, like most of my trading career, May and June and July, doesn't matter if we're going up, going down, whatever, have had good movement. But August, it seems like a good chunk of August and September more often than not. I'll go back and look. It's just, some of this is recency bias as well, that this August and last August both haven't been great, but it just seems this is about the dog days, right? And it's weird because it used to be after Labor Day, because more and more of the volume was not on necessarily on digital exchanges, and you still, the New York Stock Exchange still played a big role in I mean, it still does, but it's, the floor is basically there for show now. They closed all the open outcry stuff in Chicago for the options and futures pits. I think they're tourist attractions now, basically. But it used to be, because it's when everyone went back to school right after Labor Day and all this. I was very surprised. And my wife and I don't have kids. We're not having kids, but so I really have not been attuned to any kind of school schedule for a very long time. I'll probably get a little more. Our my sister's daughter, my niece, our niece is going to start school in a year or two, but it used to be we would start like first week of September, maybe last week in August, and that was considered early. And then we'd go usually till the first or second week of June. Now it seems like schools are starting like mid-August and they're out before Memorial Day. It seems like COVID switched that up a little bit. But yeah, I don't follow any sort of academic calendars. I was really surprised when we moved here. We moved here in November of 24. So like, and we're probably about a mile and a half down the road from a school. And so we see, and there's a busy state road kind of just near us here. So you see the buses go back and forth. But I was like shocked the first year we were living here, and I was outside with my dog, and like the buses were starting, and it was like August 10th or 11th. I'm like, really? It's a nice little fun swipe there, huh? It was off a Trump tweet, I believe. Yeah, I think like I said, I think I slept too much these past couple of days because I was great yesterday. I'm dragging ass so far this morning. I don't know why that is. I do recommend, guys. This is going to sound like overkill, but I've just talked to too many people over the years that have done this and gotten something out of it. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but it can't hurt, right? Is and we talk about keeping your trading journal, right? Your record of trades, whether you use a program for that, whatever. I use TradeZella. I really recommend it. I don't, again, not an affiliate with them, don't have any business relationship with them. Um, but I also recommend keeping kind of like a trade diary. And I use that term. And of course, every dude in the world's like, "Oh, I don't keep a diary." And I'm not saying like, but keeping a trading psychology journal is important as well, right? Where you're saying, hey, got a couple of great setups. In hindsight, they were both losers. In hindsight, they were good trades. They were good setups. They just didn't confirm. Um, that so you're processing that, right? You're understanding, hey, these were still good setups, right? Sometimes you can't be objective after the fact. You got to give it an hour or two, or sometimes even a day or two, to really kind of write that out. But I do recommend keeping track of, like, I for about almost 2 full years early in my career. So I started my career about I got really good, really started revving up my trading about 2013. And I've been in and around the markets and kind of learning for a year or two before that. But that's when I was like, okay, I'm a trader now, right? And I started with $60,000 of my own money, blew about 40 of it in the first 6 months, right? Trying to trade small cap stocks and options. What a disaster. And then I just took a time out. I almost quit. I mean, I went to bed one Friday, about to wake up and make the decision to quit trading and beg for my old jobs back, right? But decided to stick with it, hit the reset button, rallied, and it took a year and a half to get back to break even. And I'm lucky I had some resources and at the time a roommate to help defer costs until I got really good at this. And but I spent about 2 years keeping a detailed journal of how much caffeine I'm drinking, how much alcohol I'm drinking. Now, I'm not writing down every meal or anything like that, but if I have a heavy dinner and I wake up sluggish as shit the next day, how much I'm exercising, things like that. Now I don't know that I found an edge out of that because I don't drink a lot during the week. I may have a little bourbon before bed, but that's mostly uh not something I do. Um, but actually, the one thing I did, and this was also just because I was, getting into my third at the time, getting into my mid to late 30s. I cut back dramatically on caffeine. I have one cup of coffee every morning. About once every other week, I will have a second. I probably will today when we're done here, maybe in between our two sessions. But I reduced caffeine. I was at 3 to 4 cups a day pretty consistently, and I noticed I was getting jittery, and especially as we moved into the afternoon, I was like, that's when the nerves started to fray. And so, at the time, I happened to have one of my first physicals in a long time. Doctor's like, yeah, I'd cut this back a little if you can. So I cut it down to two, and then eventually to one. Never going to cut it completely. I love my coffee in the morning too much, but um, and especially when it's not super hot here, we get about 6 to 7 months out of the year, taking out like one or two in the winter, one or two in the summer, where it's really nice to sit on our front porch and drink coffee when it's nice and cool, low to mid 60s in the morning. Helps wake up, hot coffee, cool air. We're kind of in the middle of well, it's not bad now, but we were coming out of almost 8 weeks of just nasty heat. So, and especially, the old meme in the Midwest, it's not the heat, it's the humidity. Well, that's true. And especially even when the temperature is 71 and first thing in the morning, if it's humid, like you go sit outside for 5 minutes, you come in looking like you ran a marathon. Um, All right, we got a short setup firing off on the RTY here. What do we got? An S3? I like this. I like this. I probably again, the entry is a little tough here because we've got this big candle. See if we pop up a little bit. If it goes without us, I think we're all right with that. But again, we're too. So 5-minute ATR is 3.4. And I know we can't enter exactly on the tick here, guys. And it's technically not a valid pattern until the candle closes. But this is basically 2/3 of an ATR we've already gone. So I can't enter here. This is chasing the move. This is a little bit of one of those catch-22 trades, guys, where you by the time it signals, if you get right in, you're chasing the move. But if you wait for a retracement, well, that increases your percentage chance that the trade wasn't going to confirm to begin with. So yeah, Dave. No, I mean that's a good observation, first of all. And listen, any system, and this one is no different. Any system is going to have its ebbs and flows in general, and ebbs and flows in terms of what is hitting, like what is printing pretty well. RTY the last 2 or 3 weeks has had some pretty good setups. Traditionally I try to stay in the NQ and the ES, but the RTY is on there for a reason. Our watch list is 6, but I'll tell you guys, like I said, I'm not, at least in my personal account or funded account, trading CL. But yeah, there's going to be times where, hey, shorts in the NQ are printing very well right now. It's shorts in the RTY, but that's why, guys, I do find any more than about 6, 7, 8. Again, in theory, this system should structure and work on any futures contract. Really, it's a candlestick technical analysis based system. It should work on anything. You should be able to throw it on a minute stock chart, a daily option, whatever. Right now, again, we've designed it for it, and it has tested best with this particular futures watch list. But again, doesn't mean in theory it can work on any time frame and any instrument. Just not as I just can't tell you it's going to work as well. I can't anyway. Even if I could, I wouldn't, because it just does not have the back testing and 3 years of experience on it. But any system, guys, I don't do it as much anymore. I still pay attention to VWAP, but I was a VWAP based trader for my first couple of years as a futures trader. It's the same thing. You're gonna get a week. The ES is doing great, and it's tracking the VWAP very well. And then there's going to be weeks it's not. So you go over to but this is a nice balance. ES and the NQ are they do trade similar, but not as much as they were a year or two ago. CL is a wild card, obviously, and I would like to get back to trading that at some point. But when you're looking at GC, which does move independently, RTY and YM can move a little more independently. It gives us a nice basket. It's not too much to watch, and it's not too much to get familiar with, right? Any asset that you trade, one of the biggest problems when I was at TradeStation, I was an options coach, and I predominantly traded. I mean, listen, are we playing certain spreads and condors, putting the probabilities to work for us? Of course, if you're an options trader, you need to be doing that stuff. But also we were playing things directionally as well. So we're still looking at charts. We're still looking at, but one of the biggest problems a lot of stock traders have coming in or options, large cap options traders, they don't know where to start. And there's, even 100 tickers is too damn many, guys. Right. And so I would always tell people, pick 5 tickers and you're trading nothing but those for 3 weeks. Right. And then you don't double it or triple it. You add 1 a week after that. Because again, watching something over a long period of time, you know how it reacts, right? I probably couldn't do much of this anymore, but when I was a large cap options trader, I knew how Apple moved. I knew how Tesla moved. I knew how some, you watch these things I never did 1 minute on stock charts. 5 minute was the shortest time frame I'd go, and I preferred the 15 minute. Um, or the hourly, but you get accustomed to seeing how something moves and you know how something moves. It's no different. I always compared it. You got a friend group, maybe, especially, as I know as adults, we don't keep as many friends around anymore, which is a little tragic. But, maybe in high school and college, you got a group of 10 friends, right? That you hang a lot, hang around with, their ins and outs, what they respond well to, what they don't. And you get to know them, and any instrument is the same way. The NQ moves differently than the GC, moves differently than silver, all of that. So watching something, it's going to take you a few months of watching something like throughout the day to really kind of get comfortable with it, guys. But yeah, I mean, Dave, that's the right observation. Yeah, R2Y is showing some promise right now, and it may continue for a bit or it may not. Yeah, yeah, definitely, Dave. Definitely. All right, guys. Well, I do want to watch this, even though we weren't really able to get in. And at this point, now if it had popped back up towards our entry, a potential entry, I would have been interested. And then you set a very tight stop in that situation. If it had popped back up maybe to 30.12, and then you just set your stop maybe about 14.5. So it's within an ATR. And then again, possibly has room down here. Now again, if it were to bump up there at this point, I'm not in because it's been too long since the potential entry. So you're gonna again, this is part of a system, guys. Sometimes you're gonna get a signal, and it's just a little late to get into the trade. I'm not gonna chase it down here, no matter what it does. We don't important not to develop bad habits, but again, this is part of trading, guys. Right? Seeing a setup just a little too late. Welcome to trading. Executing a great trade, stopping out, and then it turns and runs in the direction you want. Great trade. Oh, did CL finally stop us out? It did. It wicked us out up here. Okay. I knew that was coming. That was the Trump tweet that wicked us out. He was talking about what was the tweet? Just more mine. They cleared him. He's saying they cleared all the mines out of Hormuz and they'll blow up any ship that tries to put more. So, all right. So we'll see where everything shifts here in a few minutes, and then we'll take a short break. Like I said, it'll probably just be about 10 to 15 minutes on chart talk, just because we haven't had much the last couple of days. All right, Dave, have a good one, man. All right, just a couple minutes till we roll over here, guys. I don't know that we're going to get any great setups off there. We just been again, we dropped down here at the beginning of this hour, and we've pretty much just been hanging out. There's just not a lot of great opportunities today. Even if I'd been in, even if we were in this RTY trade, if we'd been able to get in, we're just basically hanging out about our ATR below our potential entry. So nothing to be too excited about. All right, here we go. Let's roll over here. All right, here we go, guys. So we have shifted here. All right, we need to let's get one of these 1 minute candles to paint here so we can get some new dots. All right, so a decent shift here. This could set up for a potential S3 short if we move over up here. That's probably what I'd be looking for. It's up in an area of prior support. Good news is for an S3 short here, guys, you can keep a really tight stop on it, right? Like if we were to enter, again, it's got to go up through and then come back down. But let's say we were to try to get in here at 260. Basically at 290, the trade's dead. Probably even 285, the trade's dead at that point. So you're risking about 500, and you can go all the way down to this structure, guys. This is, I don't like saying 2-to-1, 3-to-1 trades, but this structures very well, assuming it comes up and would set us in. So, all right, guys. So I'm going to take a break. We'll be back at 10:30, just a short 10 to 15 minute chart talk, and then we'll call it a day. I'll see you guys then. What do we got here? Alert on RTY, another short setup. Oh, it's just another S3. I don't usually take the second consecutive setup because it means this first one didn't confirm. So no trade there for me. All right, guys.